All right, good evening. It is March 21st, 2022. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Argyle ISD Board of Trustees. At this time, we will determine if a quorum is present.
Leona McDade, present.
Richie Duffenball, present.
Brad Lowry, present.
Craig Hawksworth, present.
I, Sam Slayton, present. We do have a quorum established. The time is 5:57 p.m. And the time now is still 5:57 p.m. and we will adjourn to executive session. The time is 7:45 p.m. We have returned from executive session. Apologize for the delay. At this time, we will have a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This time we'll have a moment of silence. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve items discussed in closed session.
I'll make a motion to approve items discussed in closed session.
Dr. McDade, a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lowry, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Can you go down to the specific item about Chief Collins? It's a specific action item.
Oh, he's got to wait.
Okay, that's it.
All right, Dr. Wright taking over here. All right. Okay.
But it also goes along with items in closed session, but
Right.
because anytime there's a principal or higher in the district, we put the name of the person and the position on the agenda. So I'm asking for approval of Scott Collins as the Chief of Police for the Argyle ISD Police Department.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve Scott Collins as Chief of Police for Argyle ISD PD.
So moved.
All right. Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Congratulations,
Welcome
Chief.
aboard.
Welcome aboard.
Can you get a picture of him?
She was saying, can he get to work?
Can you go stand by that door over there?
How about Mr. Slayton? Mr. Slayton can come? And maybe
I
Dr.
did my
Bitter.
hair, my makeup
Let
Come
Dr.
on.
Bitter.
Come on, Dr.
Yeah, that'll be the, well, and Mr. Hawksworth,
Yeah.
the board officers.
We'll stay. You go, Sam. You got it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, it's my honor to be chosen as your next chief and administrative staff. It's my honor, and I want to let you know I will represent the Argyle Independent School District Police Department with pride, honor, and integrity. And I thank you for choosing me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Congratulations. Yeah, we gotta turn to Rick here.
He's got to quit wearing
DCC.
Hey,
it's just khaki.
those. No, I'm
In my defense, I did come during the middle of a tornado.
He's talking about him.
And I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about this wild shirts he wears on picture night.
Picture night.
Every night's picture night.
I'll see you.
All right. Thank you for your judgment, Mr. Hawksworth. Appreciate that.
Add that to my session on Thursday night.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Wyverline, we didn't have anyone sign up for public comment? Okay. All right. And we have postponed all special recognition tonight to a future board meeting due to the inclement weather. All right. Next we'll go to the consent items. Greg, can you pull up the donations, please? Or whoever's on. Rick. Sorry, Greg. Okay. All right, the March 2022 donations. We have an anonymous donation for $1,500 to the girls' soccer team to be used as needed. From AEBC, $2,500 for the high school track trophies. From Hilltop PTA, $1,400 for PE field day. Hilltop PTA, $8,750 to Hilltop activity account for outdoor awning over garden. And for Argyle West Elementary PTA, $500 for the startup of a new Argyle West Elementary Student Council to use as needed. Total March donations, $14,650. Does anyone have any questions on anything on the consent items need to discuss? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the entire consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Lowry, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Okay, we now have our construction report. Mr. Cohen, come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Okay, starting with South Elementary School tonight. Keep in mind we prepared these a week earlier than normal, so some of this is actually already a little outdated. So as of about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, this is where we were at. So irrigation and landscape work have started out on the Denton Creek frontage. So you can see in this area all of the trenches that they've got going. That's where they've started irrigation because they're following the final grade activities and sidewalks that are moving out ahead of them. And they're working their way around from this corner, around this direction, and then to the back. Major activities that have been happening here recently. Last week they did get the last of the slab poured for the classroom. This will be the second floor. Area D, last piece of classroom. So that's most of the concrete now is down on the ground, or in the air in this case, on the entire project. They've started metal wall panels out front. So the areas you see here below the windows and between the brick will be metal panels. And they're going to continue that on around. The masonry veneer has also started. Again, the classroom wing, area B and C, so they've actually got that going up, and then metal panels will follow them as well, going around toward D. On the interior, they're making very good progress. They've actually started tape and bed work in area A where they started many weeks ago now. So they're following everyone on the inside. The roof deck has gone on now that they've got the second floor poured. On area D, they've got the roof decking going on. And then the interior framing has followed sequence of slab pours, so they're already nearly finished with area C, getting ready to move into area D with all the interior wall framing and sheetrock. Tape and better will just follow them around. Here's the snapshot dates they had for us. So we are almost to 100% dry end of the building, which they've got here for March. I feel like they'll be very close to that at 100%. That'd be roof, all windows by the end of this month. And then they're showing still substantial completion in July, which really that's probably going to be a little sooner, and that's more like a final completion date. So we hope to be well along the way to finishing the punch list by the time we get to July. So they're tracking very well towards that goal right now. Upcoming work that they've got scheduled will be continuing irrigation and landscaping, continuing with on-site sidewalks, playground equipment will be going in, along with the underground drainage, and then lastly the poured rubber surface. They'll be working on the canopy foundations out front for the covered canopy that will go along the entire front of the cafeteria. Our high roof along the corridor, that's the clear story roof they're talking about. We'll see metal going down on that section very soon. And they should be getting close to finishing all the brick and stone veneer toward the end of the month on that last section of classroom wing as they work their way around. Inside the courtyard, they have started the masonry and metal panel work in there so they can work their way out of that courtyard before it gets fully enclosed. And then we should start seeing probably first or second week of April some ceiling grid to start going in area A, followed by B, C, D.
Remind me how large the lot is on this piece of property compared to, was it 12 point 7
Oh, this
or
is
something.
17.3.
17 and
17.3.
change.
Okay.
And the other one was 12.7.
Yeah.
12
The other one-
something, yes.
The other one was too small. But we made it work, or
Right.
the architect made it work.
Right.
This is so much better, so much better.
Definitely.
Allows for more parking for sure,
Yes.
playground space, and, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And we even got the variance for extra parking on this
Right.
one.
We did.
Mhm.
Any other questions? No.
Looks great.
Admin building? So the administration building, they've got metal roof complete, the fascia around it. All the canopies over the windows have been installed, so those you can see here along the side and the back. All of the windows have these little louver shades to help with the sun control. All rooftop units are set with screens installed, and they've got 50% of the brick and stone on the dumpster enclosure, which is it's going to have a big 30-yard roll-off dumpster in there, so it's not just a small enclosure. So they're 50% complete with that.
Jeff, are those sun louvers automated? Like they?
No, they don't move. They're just fixed.
Okay.
And are these screens what we're gonna be talking about later, or involve what we're talking about later? The screen, the,
HVAC screens.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, just
Yes.
asking, okay.
I don't have that as an item, though. Do I? I can talk about it.
No, it's just referring to we saved some money on some screens.
Yes,
yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, yes, okay.
Budget
I'm
thing.
with you, yes,
Okay,
correct.
sorry.
You're correct, I'm sorry.
Okay,
So here's a shot of the front. They've got all the masonry up, scaffolds pulled down. They've actually got the scaffolding up to finish 6 columns that get stone and brick on them as well, and I think they're nearly complete with that. Inside the building, again, this is going to be outdated here. They've actually got the plumbing fixtures installed in the restrooms. Final grading and site cleanup work did start last week, so landscape irrigation will follow that. Some interior photos. They've got all the ceiling grid installed. They've been working on getting lights and HVAC grills set. They've actually gotten final inspections on all the overhead work, so ceilings are starting to be dropped in there. Here's a snapshot of one of the restrooms with the tile work complete. All the plumbing fixtures are now installed. They're working on the hard ceilings, the sheetrock ceilings now.
Hey, it's one tile color. I mean,
the lifestyle.
it's not 6.
One on each wall. But that work is all complete, and they've actually moved on to putting in the rest of the flooring this week. So carpet and some VCT in a couple of spaces are all going in this week. Got permanent power and gas a couple of weeks ago, so they got all the units started up. So we now have been able to condition the space, which is why. What's that?
We're now paying our bill.
No, they're still paying the bill.
No.
We're not paying the bill yet. Not our building. So that's why they're able to be putting the floor in this week, because they've been able to condition the space. Electrician did prep all the lights in the ceiling, so he's gotten that inspection, so they're starting to cover those up. We'll get doors hung. Millwork should start coming in this week, so it's starting to really look complete out there. Final paint, they've been working on that. They're not quite finished. Soffit installation is close to wrapping up. Electrical ceiling rough, that has completed. Brick and stone has completed. Right now it's really down to just finishes and getting the outside cleaned up. So I feel like they're making good progress towards us being able to move sometime in April, pending any issues with the town. But Right now, the plan is to go ahead and have furniture come April 13th. That's the current scheduled date. And tentatively, we've set a move date of about a week later.
So you're thinking May board meeting there?
We're pushing real hard for that. Absolutely.
But you sent her for one last time.
So, any other questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right, Liz, next contestant. I was gonna say, could have moved the table.
Okay, so we just wanted to go over, I didn't really call this a budget update, just some basic information on next year's budget. We'll have, this is just the calendar, and some of these dates may change a little bit, but right now we're planning on, of course, budget information tonight, a full update in April, board meeting, our certified estimate from the appraisal district typically comes at the end of April. Then we'll do another update in the May meeting, and then we're going to try and hold a workshop after the new board members are on the board. So tentatively May 25th, but I think that's still determined on if that's a good date for everybody or not. But sometime in later May. And then the next couple of board meetings we'll have updates again. And then in the July 25th is when we're supposed to receive our certified property values from the appraisal district, which allows us to move forward with publishing our notice, setting our doing our calculations for our tax rate, and hopefully we'll be able to have that public hearing, and adopt the budget and tax rate on August 16th. If anything happens to delay that timeline a little bit and keep us from publishing our notice in time for that meeting, because it will be a tight turnaround, we may have to have a special meeting later in August to get that going. But if everything, as long as we get those certified values just right, and we can get our information into TEA and get our compressed tax rate verified by TEA, then we should be able to make that August 16th meeting. But I think it's a day earlier this year than it was last year, maybe, just the way it falls, so it does make it a little tight. Okay, just a reminder, some of our key factors, of course, our enrollment and our attendance, property values, tax rate, the formula transition grant, although that's not a very large amount of our revenue coming in, I do want to continue to point that out. We've talked about it every year in the budget, and I've got a number I'm going to throw out here to you in a minute. And then our federal funds, we still expect some ESSER supplemental for next year, a little over $1 million for next year's budget. Okay, the enrollment and attendance. As you know, you've already seen the demographic report. We're estimated a little over 12% increase. We still are watching any effects of COVID-19 and anything on the attendance and or enrollment. It has really affected our enrollment, or not our enrollment, our attendance this year, and could have an impact on our budget. There are some potential hold harmless numbers out there for this year's budget. And if you'll notice, I have not brought a budget amendment yet for state funding like we typically do this time of year, because right now the hold harmless, and this is in your financial report on your consent agenda there, but the hold harmless that's been announced by TEA, I do not feel like will benefit our district. One of the things that was a possibility is if you could replace your first 6 weeks attendance with your 4th through 6 weeks attendance average if it was better. Well, our 4-6 weeks attendance, I believe, was somewhere around 92%. I don't think we're going to average out to make it any better than the first 6 weeks. I really don't think we're going to have any significant help from that. But there was some information from the House Education Committee that they sent to TEA request to consider additional hold harmless, and the way that the proposal that they sent, if it's approved as it was sent, would help benefit us, but we're still waiting on that information. So we're trying to wait until we get a better understanding of what's going to actually happen this year to bring forward any type of amendment on that. But we do not expect any hold harmless to be continued through 22-23, which would be next year's budget. We're kind of hearing in any of our workshops and trainings, we're hearing whatever happens this year will be the last with any type of hold harmless from the pandemic. All right, DCAT, again, we'll have preliminary totals around the end of April. and we can look at our historical values and make sure that we're estimating along the trend there. But this is the main thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight, because this is a little bit different information and new. With House Bill 3 that came out a few years ago, we had to do the M&O side of the tax rate that was required to be compressed each year. Well, earlier in February, the state came out with what the new compression formula for next year and those amounts, and so we're estimating that we are going to drop on the M&O side by 1.74 cents. And that's what I have calculation up here. So what that does is in our bond plan has a potential increase of 1.5 pennies. And that's what we've talked about so far. And this kind of changes the overall tax impact. Doesn't change the INS side, but it does change the total tax impact when we look at our compression on our M&O side. It will no longer be an overall increase to the tax rate. So that's some new information that's going to go out, but we wanted to make sure that we discuss the M&O side with you and the reasoning why on the M&O side we are under that compression, and that's not a choice that we have. If that calculation comes out that we are required to compress it, then that's the amount that we have to go down. And we were at the floor last year, the lowest that it could go on that compression, and the floor is now this much lower, and we are anticipating with the growth that will be there on our values that will come out that that we will go down to the new floor, which is 1.74 cents lower.
So the growth on values, TAV values, plays a role in how much you have to compress?
On the M&O side, yes, it does. And in our full update, we'll go over the actual calculation and how that plays out, because it is based on the state level, and then each individual district calculates their own. That number is not certified, though, through TEA until I believe August 5th deadline. We get our value information on the 25th. We do our calculations. We send it into TEA. They verify yes or no, and then we can move forward with setting our tax rate. But I can tell you in all of our estimates and everything with the calculations that are out there now, we should meet the growth to make the 1.74 cent decrease on the M&O side.
So net effect, even if the bond passes,
We'd still have
a total tax decrease to the property.
That is correct. And
Only on the M&O side.
No.
Total.
total, because
Because we're asking for 1 point.
we're asking for 1.5 pennies on the INS side, and the M&O side is going to be compressed 1.74. So it's close to a wash, but not exactly. And so Rick is helping with how to get that message out. So that'll be coming out after this board meeting in the next couple of days.
Lower.
Because of the growth.
So again, this is the main new information that I wanted to make sure that we hit on tonight. Is
Now, does this information make you nervous as far as the budget for next year?
no, as far as the tax compression, it works out between local and state values. With the way the state funding is set up at this point, the only new revenue when you look at the overall effect is with an increase in enrollment and attendance. So with our enrollment increasing, that's where our revenue is increasing. But depending on how your values played out and all that, it would either come on the local side or the state side.
So we're covered either way. It just depends on which pot it comes out.
Right. Every district has a different growth value, and they're in different rates and how all of their information plays out. But the true increase in revenue on the M&O side, as far as for your general fund budget, at this point, the way the funding is set up comes with additional students, and in turn, y'all know that it's not enrollment, it's attendance that plays that part in there. So before I move on to the next one, does anybody else have any questions on this part? This was my main message to you tonight, is the M&O compression.
Has that been changed for the presentations coming up?
Not yet. We're changing it.
It's a good thing we have electronic
Burning the midnight oil
presentations.
tonight, I guess. Huh?
No, we're changing it because.
But it is, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
definitely changing it.
Okay.
We'll have it changed before the presentation tomorrow night or harvest.
Okay.
Because that will be a large audience. I mean, not that it would matter. If it was one person in the audience, we would still change it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal, right? I mean, you basically can pass it with no effect to your
Contact, right?
School district tax.
Correct, right.
Important fact. That's a fact.
Okay, just as a reminder, I think I just mentioned this tax rate timeline. Again, we get our certified values on the 25th of July. It's our information is due to TEA by August 1st, and they are required to send us a reply by August 5th, and then we can proceed with publishing the notice, and in turn, as long as we get that in time, making the August 16th meeting. If not, we'll have to ask for a special meeting. Okay, formula transition grant, and you're going to hear this every single budget update, budget information, anything we talk about. Formula transition grant is important for our district. It's part of House bill funding. 23-24 is the last year of funding, and this is not, it's not unique to Argyle. Not every district still receives formula transition grant. Some, you may have had quite a few districts when it started out, and the goal of the funding formula was that the districts would work their way out of that, where by the time it was the end of the funding, hopefully you would no longer be receiving that funding, so you weren't hitting a funding cliff. But some districts, like us, are not projected to make that. And so we are going to have, if there is not a legislative change, we will have a funding cliff that we will lose funding. And so right now, the estimated, what we're looking at for 21-22, we believe is about $3 million of our state funding. House Bill 1525, then, which was our very last legislative session, did change the funding a little bit. They did put a statewide limit on it. And so right now, the state is estimating, they're giving us information, they feel like our prorated estimate is going to be 90% of what we should have earned. And so that's going to be limited every year that it comes out. And it just depends on how many districts are in there and the total amount. Because I believe it's $400 million. I may have that number a little bit off statewide, and then they'll have to prorate that down to every district so that they don't exceed the limit.
Rather than lose $3 million, we'd lose 2.7.
Actually, the $3 million is already calculated down to the 90%. So we're actually a little over, and that's just this year. Every year, you have to calculate the new amount as far as what our funding would be for 22-23. So when we look at our full-blown update next month, we'll have some numbers in there for you and have that expanded out to each year.
You said there's a cliff, right? So if 23-24 is the last year, we're losing $3 million this year.
Well, it would be whatever if we are still in the receiving formula transition grant in 23-24, if we're receiving $3 million at that point, if we work down to where,
not
right,
losing.
Receiving, or if we've worked our way down to where it's only $2 million at that point,
It's
whatever it is gone after that year, unless there is some form of legislative change in the next cycle, in the next legislative session that either extends it out or makes some adjustment for schools that are still receiving this. Again, it's not unique to us, but it's not every district in the state either.
I was going to ask if you knew like the percentage. Do you think a majority of districts, or is it a small percentage that are getting it?
I don't know that. I believe the information's out there, and I can bring that back to you in our next budget update.
Okay.
So.
Because that would determine whether or not I think if the legislature would do something if a vast majority of districts are going to be impacted.
Right.
Or a large amount.
Right. I can tell you, if I have that number correct off the top of my head, it's about $400 million across the state. So.
Okay.
So when you budget for next year, you have to assume it's not going to be there, or how do you do your budget?
So budgeting for next year, they'll have an assumption. All the agencies, TEA and TASBO, and the ones that we work with, they'll let us know, for 22-23, this is the prorated amount that we expect you to start your suggested to start your budget with, whether it's 90%, it may drop down to 87% or go up to 92%, whatever that is. So in our summary of finances, when we put in all of our data and we can run our numbers, that's when we figure out, how much exactly that we're estimating for next year. But every time we get more information, those numbers change throughout the year. And then as the state has more information, they help us with what amount is estimated to be prorated at. So that's a changing number, just like anything else in our funding formula throughout the year.
So big picture question. Before we got this, the first year that we ever got it, was it a pretty big boost to our budget, or did they change the funding formula and we just changed the pots where the money came from?
It was a change in funding formula. This came in when they changed the formula from, remember, talk about current year values versus prior year values. It was when all of that funding formula changed, and some of the things that were changed, districts were they didn't use the word hold harmless or held harmless. They used a formula transition grant as the term.
Okay.
Um,
Get you over that change.
That's great. But any district that was growing as far as property values, that change that was made from prior year values to current year values, that did significantly hurt growing property value districts, because you no longer got that 1 year lag of the formula looking at the lower value of property, but you're collecting taxes at the higher value. So moving to the current year values is what created some issues for growth or property value growing districts.
And this was created to help with that transition.
That and some of the other things that were all. It wasn't the only thing, but for
Right.
our district, that was a major
That was
issue
the
in
thing.
there.
Okay.
A change. I guess that's my last slide in there. Probably it's not changing anymore. Okay. So that's, again, we'll have a full blown budget update for 22-23 as scheduled in April, but I wanted to get something out there to you so we could talk about the M&O value this time, since that is new information, and it's very important, especially with us going into a bond. So, all right. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. All right, Dr. Wright, you have your report.
Chief Kearney is leaving the district and will be honored at a going away reception at the high school library on Thursday, the 24th of March from 4 to 6 p.m. All members of the community and all school employees are invited to attend. Chief Kearney's been the impetus for the Argyle ISD PD since 2015 when he became the chief. He's seen some tragedies in his role here and has been a pillar of strength during those times. He's also seen some very successful times and been recognized as a premier example of what leading an armed staff program in the state looks like. AISD collectively appreciates his work here and wishes him the best in his future endeavors. On April the 6th, we have a big event coming up at 6:30 p.m. There will be a candidate forum at the high school in the auditorium for the 5 board candidates. Candidates will be asked questions in a round-robin style format. Cross Timbers Gazette, headed up by Max Miller, is hosting the event at AHS. So this will be hosted by Cross Timbers Gazette. The bond and the board member election is now less than 2 months away, with early voting beginning the 25th of April and election day being the 7th of May. Place 6 has the 2 candidates and place 7 has the 3 candidates. 1 candidate will be selected for each place. South Elementary, as previously mentioned by Mr. Cohen this evening, will be ready for occupancy in August of 22. Move-in should be able to occur in July. And as you saw, the administration building is coming along very well, and we have a plan to move April 20 and 21.
Dr. Wright, you said that April 6th,
April 6th is the candidate forum.
and it's at the high school?
Yes, at
Cafeteria.
high school auditorium on the
Auditorium.
stage,
Okay.
yes.
At 6:30. 6:30?
6:30.
Yeah, thank you.
And it would be wonderful if all of you could attend and listen to that. If you're unable to attend, we're planning to record it. We're recording audio and video, right? So it'll be recorded and we'll put that out on the website. And the questions will be based on topics of general interest and or concern in the district. Every year we do an eminent domain report for the district, and that's been completed and submitted for 2022. The district in the 21-22 school year has not condemned any property. Currently, there are 3 students taking classes at the ATC in Denton. The funds that the district gets through the Perkins grant covers these classes for our students. Only once in the last 4 years have we had to pay any extra money, and it was just a little over $1,000 the year that we had to pay. We'll have our own DAEP for the first time in 22-23. Sanger, as previously mentioned, ISD is not contracting with us or with any other districts any longer after this year. I did talk to Louisville about contracting with them, and they're unable to do that. We need a teacher and an aide for this program, but I truly believe we can manage this on our own. Our one-act play has advanced from district to by-district to area. We'll be having the academic UIL high school meet here in Argyle, at Argyle High School on Wednesday at the high school. That'll be the first time to host anything like that for high school there. They've been having it at 377, of course, since this is their first real year at the Canyon Falls location. Remember that we have a cultural event from 5:30 to 6:30 on the 29th. It's at the middle school cafeteria. All campuses are going to present a kiosk or table or area of interest that night. This will be similar to what was held at West earlier in the year, except it will be a district-wide event. We will be having a swearing in of Scott Collins as the new police chief on the 28th of March here at the boardroom at 6 p.m. We're hoping that as many of the board members as possible will attend.
March or April?
March 28th, next Monday night.
Next month, okay.
He's getting sworn in next Monday night. Chief Kearney won't be here after the 24th of March. We're painting the water tower. The water department keeps calling. They're going to pay part of it and we're going to pay part of it, but we're painting the water tower with the logo, the eagle logo, and something that says home of state champions. Because we can't put, there are so many different state championships with band and football and basketball.
Just put another water tower.
Just to say home of state champions.
Where's this water? Which water tower are we talking about? The one off back here?
Right, they have to repaint it,
That'd
so
be
they've
just
been
a
calling
water
and
tower.
asking.
That's what I said. Let's just add some wings on it.
Just briefly, soccer girls, undefeated district champions, playing Bridgeport Thursday night. This does conflict with a couple of other activities, such as the reception, and then we have a bond presentation that night. Soccer is 7-1 in district. They're also the district champions, and they play also Thursday, the 24th at Bridgeport. So there's a doubleheader at Bridgeport for the soccer teams. Boys golf placed first at the 4A state preview, and the second team that we call Argyle Red placed second. Girls golf placed first at the 4A state preview, and Madison broke the school record at 1 under. She was the first place medalist. Softball's 4-0 in district, baseball's 2-0 in district. Track is taking groups to the Decatur meet and the Texas relays this week. Boys basketball defeated Dunbar to qualify for the Region 1 tournament, but lost to Canyon in the regional semifinals. Girls basketball had a 37-1 record for the year, and they lost to Hardin Jefferson in the state semifinals. Maddie Lumsden was named to the UIL state tournament team for 4A. Tennis is traveling to Galveston this week for a tournament, and the District 7 4A meet will be held at Argyle High School on the 30th and 31st of March. So it'll be exciting to have all that activity on our tennis courts. Football spring practices start the 18th of April, and our volleyball coach has accepted the head volleyball assistant girls coordinator position at Frisco Panther Creek. So we have that position posted. So once again, please try to come to Chief Kearney's going away reception on Thursday, and then Chief Collins swearing in on Monday night at 6 p.m. And you're extremely welcome at any of these bond presentations. We can't go over 3 board members at one bond presentation, but up to 3 can certainly come. That's all.
I plan on attending tomorrow night. If anyone.
I have it on my calendar, but I can be
Who's going tomorrow night, anyone?
It's on harvest.
Yeah.
I might be able to. Is anyone else going,
These two.
We'll go.
Mr. Hawksworth's going, Mr. Slayton's going?
So
Okay.
that would be 3.
or?
I know,
If
Mr.
someone else wants to go, I can.
Well, you can have
find
3.
out.
Yeah, I can't go the rest of the week, so
Yeah.
that's all I can go to.
And Mr. Williams is out of town, so he wouldn't, we know he wouldn't be going, so that's 3.
Do you wanna go, Mr. Duffy?
I'll be out of town.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're good, Dr. Biddle? Okay.
So we have 3 tomorrow night?
Mm-hmm.
We do.
Thursday night though, there's one.
There's one Wednesday too.
We made up a
Can't do
schedule, the last time we
Tuesday,
did this
Wednesday,
in
Thursday.
17, we had a schedule so that we never went over 3.
If
So we probably
Mr.
need
Lowry,
to do that again.
schedule wise, if you need me to go Wednesday, I can. If you want to go tomorrow night, if that's what you're.
Yeah, and I
Insinuating.
can trade with you, I mean.
Yeah,
if
I'm
you-
not available on Thursday. That's the
I'm not. There's one Wednesday.
Wednesday too.
There's one Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday this week.
You know, I could go tomorrow night. I don't want, if you're planning to go, go ahead.
Well,
We can talk.
okay, we'll figure it out
Okay.
after we close. Make sure we only have 3.
Okay.
And Dr. McDade sounds like she's flexible too. So.
I
And we
mean,
won't.
if you need to do tomorrow, I'm okay with that. I can do another night.
We won't put on record what Mr. Williams is doing. All right. We'll go on to action items. So, action item 10A, just consider approval of professional employee term contracts, teachers, librarians, and nurses. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10A as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Did
Thank
you abstain from this?
Well, I didn't see her name in it. Is she in there?
Didn't she only from contract?
Yeah, I didn't see it. On action item 10A, Wyveline, if you'll just put that I abstained from that one. I apologize, I didn't see her name on that one.
Well, if it's not, it should be. I'll have to go through here.
It's just easier if I abstain. It's fine.
Yeah, either way.
We'll move on.
Okay.
I'm abstaining from 10A regardless,
No matter what.
And,
no matter what.
okay. And Mr., well, that wouldn't have.
Well, it wa-
Okay.
Yep, he's not here. Okay,
Well, that would have been last month anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that's 5-0. Yep. Okay. All right, Liz.
Okay, this is budget amendment 4, and this has to do with your next action item after this that Mr. Ledford is going to present. We have 2 small revenue accounts that we are going to increase, that we've seen some increase in revenue. One of them actually is double. If you'll look at that, athletic gate receipts, with our growth and after having a couple of years, that were hit by COVID, we had quite a bit more revenue come in this year than we have. So, that's a little bit of a good thing there. Our crowds have been large at almost all of our events. And I know if you've attended any of the events, we have a new ticketing system also. That's helped out quite a bit. So there's about $70,000 there we're estimating, about $30,000 in rental. And if we go to the next page, the offset is to 81 facilities acquisition and construction. And this is for a rather large, I believe instead of HVAC, it's called RTU. Is that correct? RTU unit. And Mr. Ledford will present that one next for the actual purchase of that. So it doesn't change the overall bottom line of the balance of the budget. It just increases the revenue and offsets the increase in expenditures.
Anyone have any questions for Liz on this budget amendment? I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10B as presented.
I move that we approve action item 10B as presented.
All right, Mr. Lowry, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, Mr. Ledford. It's weird that it's not a boiler at Hilltop.
Yeah.
We didn't plan on this. So for a while now, we've known that Hilltop is one of our older buildings. And Liz and I have been talking about a plan to replace these rooftop units as they need. And Hilltop is a little bit different than anywhere else because they have such large units, and there's very few of them. At West, I believe there's 200, or I don't know, 130 maybe. I don't know exactly the number, but at Hilltop there's 8. And these are 60-ton units, 40-ton units, and 20-ton units. This one just happens to be the largest. It's a 60-ton unit, and it's 18 years old. We've got 4 left on the building to replace, and we're going to try to replace one every year for the next 4 years to get us through that. This one just came a little bit sooner than we were expecting. So we've had a lot of power outages the last couple of years. Last year, a lot of them at one time really damaged some of the low voltage wire in the unit. It takes a bigger hit than the bigger voltage wire, and there's so many small components in those large units. You've got relays and safety devices and all kinds of resistors in there, and when those are affected, it doesn't allow that unit to have as large of an amp draw, so it's not getting the right amount of amps for all those places for it to go. So it is time to replace the unit. We are having trouble with lead times, and we have found somebody that will be able to give us a 16-week lead time, which is going to be real close. If we go ahead and start the process tomorrow, we're hoping to have it here and installed before the first day of school. If it's not, it'll be real close after that. That's what we're looking at right now. Any questions?
So the 18.6 is a Band-Aid, it didn't really fix anything?
So last year we fixed all of it, okay? So the only thing that we didn't replace was the low voltage wire and the bigger wire that's coming into it from the transformer. So as we've got to this year, Encore is replacing a lot of power lines, and they're turning power on, off, and then turning it back on. And when they turn it back on, there's a surge that goes through that building. Well, that unit in particular is already weak due to the previous damage that it's had. Even though we replaced all its components inside, the larger ones like the compressors and the fan motors and all of that we did to it. Well, now what's happening is those low voltage wires are causing these things to go bad again because it's not having enough current to run through it to run them. So it does currently have 4 compressors in it. 3 of them, 2 of them are working fine. The third one is we're trying to keep it running as best we can until the end of the school year. The 4th one is not salvageable. So we've already had to put, can't remember exactly the total price this year, but at least $5,000 into it this year to get it back running to where it should be. And we're trying to Band-Aid it enough till the end of the year so that we can replace it for next year.
I'm assuming the newer units have better surge protection built in.
So that's exactly what has happened. So far we have in this district, we've got almost 800 rooftop units in the district total. There's only 6 of them. Well, there's 7 of them right now that don't have surge protection on them, and this is one of them. So after this one, there will be a total of 6 that do not have surge protection on them. So we have, since this happened, I've got together with my HVAC crew, and we've talked about what we can do to install something on these 6 until we get them replaced, because they are the older units. They're the only units that are more than 11 years old, I believe. There's just 6 left, which that's huge for our district. That means we're in really good shape with AC units for at least a little while to come. But anyway, yes, we are proactively getting those, and we're hopefully going to have those all installed before the end of this year.
What kind of cost is it to do surge protection? On a
So
unit?
it's like a shutoff that has it's kind of like a GFI plug in your house. So it's the surge protection. As far as the cost goes, I'm not sure yet. I can't answer that perfectly. I assume about $200 a piece, which is not too
Well
bad.
worth it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So
Do you have any idea the life expectancy of these? You mentioned when you started this conversation that I guess in West and the new schools that we're building, we're doing a bunch of smaller units that I don't know if they're individual to the classroom or not, or if they're, a pod of classrooms versus this one you said, I think it says there's 8 total units here. What's the life expectancy, and does it make sense to consider changing those out and moving in another direction? Because I remember when my kids were in Hilltop, you might have teachers on that side of the hall wearing coats and the ones on that side of the hall with fans fanning themselves.
So I
And I don't know if we've ever figured that out. I'm not the challenge everywhere, not just here, but
we have done a little bit of research on it. It's very expensive. It's, you're talking about each classroom. If there's 120 classrooms there, you're talking about $5,000 just for the unit itself, if it's a 3-ton unit. So
is that what they are at the new schools we're doing, is 1 unit per
that's one
classroom?
unit. We will never build another one like Hilltop. We will never have, in my opinion, we will never have VAVs, because there's 8 units that run a slew of VAV units that are kind of like that inside each classroom. And they allow it to open and close to put hot water run past it to blow heat in there, and then cool air to run through it, blow the cool air in there.
I just wonder over time, right, is that this campus isn't going away.
Right. That's
And
correct.
yes, I get that it's expensive, but part of the building and educating the children is comfort.
Right.
And I know you guys get all the calls.
Correct.
I don't even remember, I think we installed ceiling fans in some of those rooms.
We have.
Right, so I'm just wondering long term. I know you said in here we replaced 5 of the 8, I think, in the last 3 years.
We have.
I'm just thinking, when those start coming to the end of their life, does it make sense to look at different options?
So we need to look into that further, but my initial thought is, as far as the way that those units are up there, there's not very much room for, most of that building's metal. It's got a metal roof on it, and it's sloped. So there's small compartmental areas to house these big units. And you can't put all of those units in that one area to be able to run the ducting that far to all these different classrooms.
Yeah.
So the design of the roof has to be different.
It wasn't engineered for 120 units.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So it is more, there is more than just replacing the units. If there was enough space to put them there in those spots, in those 8 spots, it would be nice, but I don't believe that you can do that and run them that far. But it is possible to design it different. You just gotta look into it.
So does it have a warranty commensurate with the expected life, what you wanna buy here?
So the expected life of all of them are about 15 years, but we usually get 18 years out of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we have had to replace a complete unit as long as I've been here, at least, that hadn't been 18 years old. So to me, that's what we're getting out of them, is about 18 years. And some of them has lasted longer, which again, we've got 6 right now after this one that are older than 18 years, but we really don't get much more than 18 years out of them. And 15 is really what usually is expected.
We get those extra years because we don't have to run them through a lot of the hot summer. Is that why? Or?
So, we've done a lot of research on what to do and how to do it in the summer. And this last year, we tried something different, and we had way less problems. We would run those units. But when I first started, we turned them off completely in the summer. And we even had summer school at one school 1 year and turned them off everywhere else. Well, what happens when you do that we've learned, is a lot of things break when you turn them back on.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that this summer. we ran them from about 8 to noon every day, not in the hot part of the day, but in the cooler part of the day. And then it was time to actually, and we didn't run them at 72 degrees either. We ran them at like 78. But we ran them and we didn't have near the problems. So we're going to continue to try to do that. Even though it does cost us money during that time, it saves us money in the maintenance part of it. So
So what does it cost to replace an entire unit? I know you said there were 3 different sizes, but say this particular one, it's a large one.
it's $91,000.
So,
Yeah, I think the price is 97.
97,950.
Okay, this is for the whole thing?
Right,
Yeah.
this is for the whole thing. That's
So
that's
this
the
would do
labor,
number-
yeah,
the engineer
the
fee.
Band-Aid was 18.6.
everything.
So this would make it 6 out of 8 then, that you would have replaced?
This will make it 7 out of 8.
7 out of 8?
I'm sorry, no, 5 out of 8.
Yeah.
We replaced 4, we've got 4 left. This will be the 5th one.
Okay.
And we'll have 3 after this year.
But this is the largest.
This is the largest. They're 40 ton instead of 60.
The size of the unit increases the cost.
Right, okay, so do we have a plan on replacing those last 3?
We do
In
one
the
a
budget?
year if we can make it like that. Hopefully, we can.
So this
So-
is just unexpectedly early.
Right.
Don't they really say 15 years is pretty good on these?
Yes, yes.
So this one's really done pretty well.
Right. The life expectancy is considered to be 15 years,
Yeah.
but we've tried to make them last at least 18. Sometimes we win, sometimes
So
we
the
lose.
last 3 have to go 19, 20, and 21 years,
Yes.
so we're starting to push it a little bit.
Right. We are.
You know, we may not make it and have to do them earlier, but, and we don't wanna get in a bind right now, but the lead time is pretty important.
Yeah.
So if it gets to where he's, you know, if Mr. Ladley comes up and says, oh, these aren't quite working, and we're afraid this one's about, you know, about ready to be going, we need to go, you know, speed up our timeline,
Right.
so.
And
Just-
the budget impact is as far as it being kind of an unexpected expense? I mean-
That was our budget amendment just a minute ago. that
Oh,
we
that's what
increased
we were
the-
talking about, okay. Okay, now I got the connection, okay.
So 16 weeks, you do it right now, you just
Right. We
squeeze
just
it
barely
in
squeeze
before
it
the
there.
hottest part of the beginning of school.
Yes. So if y'all approve it, I'm calling him tomorrow and saying, hey, order it.
He's on speed dial. Okay.
Alright, I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10C as presented.
Make the motion.
Dr. Bitter, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Deffenbaugh snuck in on that one for the second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, 10D is approval of an additional police officer at South Elementary.
Right. You approved the addition at the high school. The way we've got it is a teacher 2 periods and a police officer the rest of the time. But this is a 5th officer for South.
All right, I'll,
So this officer will be dedicated to Sal or just
This
have an
officer-
extra officer available?
We
Base there.
we don't have a clear delineation of how this officer could also help at West because our drop off and our pickup is at the same time. But this officer could hopefully serve West in some capacity.
Or even, I was so close to the high school.
Correct.
It'd be helpful there too.
Right.
This would make number 4 or number 5?
Five
5.
counting the one you approved that's a teacher officer.
Mm.
We're not having very good luck at all getting applicants for that dual position.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10D as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Hawksworth, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. McDade, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. This is next action item 10E, consider approval of purchasing additional acoustical panels. This is different than the shell.
This is different than the shell, yes it is. So what this is now that we've got the spaces finished, we had the acoustical consultant come in and take a number of different readings in the spaces to determine how they are performing with echoes at certain frequencies and things. And there's certain acceptable ranges, whether you're talking choir, it's, one set of values. If it's band, it's different. Theater, it's another set of values. So they've tested the auditorium, choir, band, percussion, ensemble, all the spaces, and they've issued a report with some recommendations. And it's clear some of it is real. Mr. Byrd hears it. He's mentioned it. We got the report. It confirmed what he already knew. And so what this approval would do would be to purchase some additional wall panels. They're just flat fabric covered wall panels to go on the wall to deaden the sound to make the room less live. And this would replace some tuba brackets that were currently installed that he said he'd rather not have those if we could get the space deadened. So we'll be removing those, replacing them with wall panels to deaden that echo that he's hearing. And so what I'm proposing is we've already approved previously $250,000 was the budget approved for roof screens for the rooftop equipment. We've only spent about $48,000 of it, and it looks like we're actually going to be needing to spend about another $15,000, and that the city will sign off on that. So my proposal is we take that savings that we've already approved, instead of buying roof screens, we'll put it towards these wall panels.
So I misunderstood you just then, because this says 250,000 was approved, 48.5 was spent. We still need 25,000 for the, according to the town of Flower Mound, and it's recommending 14.5, right?
Yes,
Of the net 176 remaining.
correct.
So there'll still be in that bucket another 152.
Correct. But,
Okay.
but the town of Flower Mound, the inspector, we've met, and he says, this is what you have left to do. You do this, you're done. And so the rest of that is just savings.
Okay.
And when I
So
wrote
is
this, I
basically
was
asking for
estimating the
14 grand of money we've already
25,000.
approved.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not
Reallocate.
increasing the contract or increasing the budget or anything like that.
Just reallocating.
My only skeptical question is the people who did the reporting
Hmm.
also
Selling
the
you
same
the-
people who are selling the acoustic
No,
material?
they are not.
Are they related to anyone?
They are not. Not in any way.
All right.
And question, they obviously put in those other, what did you say are up there now? Tubes or?
Tuba.
Tuba brackets.
Tuba brackets.
So they,
It's called
they
Tuba
where they
brackets.
just hang the
Okay.
tubas on the wall instead of putting them up in the case.
Yeah. Tubas don't deaden anything.
No,
So we'll
I
have
do
to move
not.
those somewhere because we already own them.
Okay.
we own them. I don't think he wants them
Okay.
reinstalled anywhere. I don't know that we have anywhere. So we'll just,
Okay.
we'll store them,
You can
keep
have
them for future
tuba
use, or
collection.
if we find a place that he does want them.
Are there any other panels in the band hall or percussion hall already?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay, so they're just
there's
finding out
a-
that they need more than
just need
what-
more.
Okay.
Right. They put in what they recommended, but they have to also balance that with the need for the whiteboards for the instruction, and then he wanted the
Right.
tuba brackets, and so we couldn't cover everything, and so they try to balance it to get it where it will perform in that range when they test it. But until we finish the space, they can't go in there and test it. We need to have the furniture and the music stands, and all that comes into play when they're checking those.
Right.
And I'm still pricing some things, just so you know that there's some recommendations for the auditorium space. Just now, pricing is starting to roll in, so I'll probably be bringing something at the next board meeting for that. And there was a component for the percussion room. Along one wall, they have just solid mirrors because as they're drumming, they need to watch their form, I guess. And the mirrors are causing this echo, so they have recommended an acoustical curtain. So when they don't need to observe the playing, they can draw the curtain like a heavy stage curtain to deaden that space. So that's another price that's still coming in as a result of these tests.
They are.
So I just want you to know there's more out there that I'm working on getting pricing. This is not all of it.
The acoustical curtain guy is related to the mirror guy.
Okay.
As far as I
Alright.
know, they're not related either.
Right, entertain a motion to approve action item 10E as presented.
So moved.
Dr. McDade, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hawksworth, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
We should get a reflective curtain.
No, we don't want a reflective curtain.
Reflective
We want a
bending.
sound absorptive curtain.
I got what you're saying.
Mirrored
A
curtain.
mirrored curtain.
Oh, a mirrored curtain? Yeah, I don't know if they make that.
Okay. Are you the next one
I'm
too?
the next one. Not that I need to read it. So this is an increase to the contract that we're requesting, but not an increase to the budget. Like last month that we did on the administration building, this is just moving money from one pot to the other pot, putting it in construction to furnish and install the Verkada security cameras and door access controls.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10F as presented. Mr. Deffenbaugh, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Dr. Bitter with the quiet second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Greg.
Big spender.
Greg.
A big spender.
And unfortunately, I have to amend this because I just got a mistake.
It's lower.
You're gonna add a
Lower.
zero?
It's lower.
We're gonna add some money here. So I noticed the quote, the one that I attached here was not the one that he had the cases in. So the true amount, anyway, this is for the 4 grades for middle school and high school plus growth of the middle school and high school, and then a slight amount of growth during the year for the devices we have on hand. This will be the last bond purchase that we use for these Chromebooks, and we are moving to the M&O plan where we will refresh grade 6 and grade 9 every year. That way we're not having to approve, at least for now, any additional bond funds for this program, but we are able to keep it going, and we've talked a lot about this, and Mr. thinks that it is something that we can deal with within our budget.
So what is your amended amount?
The amended amount.
'Cause that's gonna
so
have
the
to-
difference is the cases are $21.49 a piece, and we need one for each of these Chromebooks. So the all encompassing total is $657,811.36. I will say, try to bring back a little bit here, that I did beat them up on those cases, and they went out for special pricing to the manufacturer to try to help us out. And, we normally pay over $30 for these cases, so 21 is a nice price for them.
So the next thing you have is clamshells. Is that something different?
Yeah, so in
that
the
case?
elementary grade levels, we've been deploying Chromebooks that can actually fold backwards and work as a tablet. Dexterity is usually not as good at those elementary levels, so it allows them to hold it and carry it and use it as a tablet. I don't like the idea of deploying those at the high school and middle school level, because I've seen how they carry these in the hallway, and sometimes it's by the screen itself. Usually the damage that we see is to the screens, and I just don't feel comfortable putting those in the middle school and high school hands, and then potentially not converting them back and just taking off with the screen exposed all the time.
Are we still classroom sets in elementary?
Through
Third?
second grade, there is.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10G with the budgeted amount amended to $657,811.36.
I'd make that motion.
Whoa, Dr. Bitter with the motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lowry, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Wow, Dr. Bitter.
No kidding.
No kidding, that's right.
So the second item we have here is for Chromebook carts for grade 2. We have traditionally not deployed Chromebook carts at this level, but we're receiving ESSER funds that I believe, what's the definitions for education recovery or?
Learning loss.
This falls under our ESSER supplemental plan that I think we talked about August September timeframe, maybe out the month there. And this was part of the plan that was presented, was to include grade 2, and then eventually next year, grade 1 with Chromebook classroom cards.
Is this something we want to do? Because this is an entitlement now, and it will always be.
We've
And
talked
so,
about that as well.
do we want to, take the money now, then we have to spend the money every 3 years for our life?
Well, our expected, our plan is, in most cases, to get at least 7 years of life out of a Chromebook. So typically what we're seeing is we'll deploy them for 4 years at a middle school, high school level, and then bring them back and distribute as we can in lower grade levels. At some point, we're run into somewhat of a roadblock that we have to figure out how to navigate, because we are building schools all the time and deploying these devices, but we're only ever gonna have, our middle school and high school numbers to pull off a refresh.
So, yeah, but I think we need to clarify, because this is, we're bringing used Chromebooks down. This is just buying the carts.
This is just the
to
carts
house
for
them.
them.
No, this is carts full of these Chromebooks.
Oh, they're already full.
Because we don't
Okay.
have,
So what happened?
We don't
so
have
now I
enough.
agree. Why are we not using the older ones?
we don't have enough to go. That's why we've never deployed.
We've
And I'm not
outgrown-
even saying that.
we've
I'm
outgrown
saying, is there a demand out there that teachers think we need this to go down to second grade and first grade, because now we're committed to that for the rest of our lives?
Well, I think every administrator, elementary administrators, come up here and said that they want
That's
that
what I wanted
technology.
Right here. I mean, at that age level.
And this is with the ESSER money.
I can't validate what the use is, or, what educational value that they're getting them, but I hear it all the time. Or they need them, they need them, they
Right,
need
the
them.
CNI department weighed in on this, I weighed in on this, the CFO weighed in on it, input from the elementary administrators.
I think every elementary administrator has made it clear they want technology
We were
at the younger
looking at
grades.
what we could do with the ESSER money that would be aligned with the request of the elementary administration and the CNI department.
And this goes further next year to first grade as well, right?
That's correct. That's the current planned use of our ESSER, or not all of it, but part of our ESSER supplemental funds was, this year was second grade.
Next year's
and,
first grade.
Next year was first grade.
I think it's great that we use a portion of that money, but to your point, and the point we've been talking about it, you just talked about M&O
You're
starting to
committed.
take over this. And we're not gonna have ESSER all the time, and so we're expanding the pressure on M&O as we keep going, as we keep going forward, so.
And that's a very
Right.
valid point, what Mr. Deffenbaugh is saying. Mr. Royer had also brought that point up initially
Mhm.
about being able to sustain it, but it's still what the, group felt was the best use of the ESSER funds for instructional purposes.
Yes.
I mean, looking 5 years out, it'll be an extra 600 to 700 per grade, of computers that we're gonna need.
It's
Just
a
in
real
growth.
concern.
Well, yeah, every first grade will be 700, the second grade will be 700.
More, because it'll be bigger by then.
We had the discussion as well. You can say this is, a one-time funding. It is what it is. That may not be available in the future, but that's a hard sell as well. It's hard to take something away that you've already had, and especially if you redesign lesson plans around this technology.
Well, the only thing you could do is take it away from first grade, right? Because if
Or
they
not-
came from
not
kindergarten,
put it
they
in.
never had it, and then you take it away from second grade the next year they moved. But that's not. I mean, like you said, once you put it there, it's hard to take it away and not make it part of the everyday experience.
But you're convinced we can afford it?
We've looked at our numbers, we've looked at our M&O, and if this is, in which the understanding that we have is that technology has been requested, it's been a desire,
Is it because by the time they get to second grade, they're already behind, or, is it more of a wish, or it's like curricularly speaking, they're behind in second grade because they didn't have a computer in first grade?
I'm gonna have to defer to somebody that knows curriculum better than I do.
I mean, it's
on
such a
that part
big,
of it.
it's such a
But-
big ticket item that I think, we have to go from like a wish list to like, this is hurting our kids'
But
advancement.
I think they're basically saying that it enhances instructional delivery and enhances their activities in small group. I'm not necessarily saying that they're saying they're behind when they get to second grade if they don't have it in first grade. but it certainly enhances their instruction.
I know what I see as a third grade parent
Yeah.
is a lot of the use that I see of the reports that we're getting on, you know, where is your child placement wise? Are they behind? Are they ahead? We get those assessments all the time that they use the Chromebooks with the kids to run through those platforms that we have to be able to measure.
In third grade.
Yeah. So I'm guessing some of that would happen as well at a second grade level.
I mean, we've had this discussion for years.
For third
They've
grade.
wanted them for
Right,
years.
for each grade. Is, so,
It just keeps
But
going
didn't,
down.
didn't we start third grade with so many carts?
Yes.
And we rotated them around? Is that the same thing here? Or is this
No.
giving
It's
each
one to
classroom
one.
their own cart?
this is one to
For
one.
17
This-
second grade classes that we will have.
This is a classroom getting their own card.
But when we did start extending it to
We
lower
did
grades.
start it that way, you're correct,
Okay.
yes.
Back in the day, we had one
Sharon.
elementary.
Roaming carts, from what I've seen, are never a success either, because if somebody wants it one day, somebody already has it. It's hard to work in consistently and people don't want to. If you can't be guaranteed that you can use it when you need it, people don't want to use it.
They just don't go home with them. That's
No.
the deal.
So to Mr. Deffenbaugh's point, let's say 23, 24, we're adding more second grade classrooms just due to growth. It could be 2, it could be 5, whatever the number turns out to be. So we'd have to buy more. And then the following year, if we wind up being able to build another elementary school, then you're talking even more. So I
Yeah,
mean, as we grow,
it's
we're
compounding.
deepening that commitment every year.
Right.
It would be part of the growth component, just as any other grade level. We're just you're correct, we're adding a grade level to it. So it's the initial upfront cost, then it's the growth every year, and then it's your refresh years.
Then it's your refresh.
That you hit.
I mean, the growth is driven by increased tax revenue as well.
Correct.
The question is the computer line item sustainable at,
Right,
we ought to have increased revenue as we get increased kids. That should be,
right, but it's overall
but we're
increased
just expanding
revenue.
that line item of your budget so dramatically.
We are, and we're making, by doing this and by funding one-to-one at any level, we're making a commitment that is what we're saying is part of the instruction that we're providing at Argyle ISD. And if that's what we're providing, then our job is to find a way to fit that into the budget and to bring you a budget that says that here's where the line item fits in. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that every year we ever look at that we're gonna be able to balance the budget, because that, we don't know what legislation's gonna do next year, we don't know attendance and all of that. But realistically, in looking at the projections, with Greg and looking at the growth that's needed, and we took a long time looking at that with this upcoming bond, because whether to include, one-to-one on that bond, or whether to try and include it in M&O. And I know, as a board, y'all have had that question quite a bit. What is the sustainability of the one-to-one program? And how are we gonna figure that out? And so we've looked at the numbers over the next, I believe you had a 5 to 6 years out there, and working that into the M&O plan. And one of the things that we'll be bringing to you over the next few months is looking at asking to commit some fund balance for certain items. And one of those items will be to the technology one-to-one, where we just put that back and you're committing it and saying we're going to use it in the future towards that. Will that fund it all the time? No, we still have to be able to commit our annual budget to that. But it is a big commitment. But if from what I understand in the direction that we look at in meetings and everything, that is the direction that we want to go in instruction and curriculum, then that's what we've got to figure out how to fund. And so that's our plan with working with the numbers, is including that. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy every single year, but I think that's something that, as a district, that if that's what we're doing, we've got to fit that in, because technology's not going away. And
No,
the
but
need
here's,
for one
can I interrupt you for just a second? Like, we had this discussion so many times, and the last time we had the discussion, it was like, computers aren't going away, we need to be one-to-one, but up to third grade, and before third grade, below third grade, it's just not necessary. It's not needed for the curriculum, it's not needed for the kids to be prepared. But now we're saying that's changed. That's the crux of the matter today, is what changed from 2 years ago or 3 years ago when we beat this thing around. Then now all of a sudden we need them.
But I think that's what you see in every grade level where we initially start.
But the
off
question
with,
is it really
with-
true?
with
Yeah.
kids in high school. Now,
I mean,
middle
this school district is going to be
needs that.
facing some other big financial needs.
Yeah,
Payroll may be one of them, by the way.
yeah.
So we, when you talk about something this big, we just need to. It's one thing for people to want it. It's one thing to say it's nice. It's another thing. This is now a must. Year after year after year, this is an absolute must to keep our kids ready to go.
I think we even talked about it. One of the topics when we were considering moving it to third grade was, how do we measure it? How do we determine if it is?
Right.
I mean, you said, is it a need or is it a want, right? Are they behind because we don't have it in third grade? Whatever decision we made was to go ahead and extend it to third grade. And I don't know how you measure it. I understand that's really challenging to do. I do. But
Well, I believe
until someone can tell me that, hey, the second graders are entering third grade
behind.
30% behind,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't do if we had Chromebooks. And I don't know how you measure it. I don't, or go to third grade and say, I can point to this in third grade that since y'all did it 2 years ago or whenever it was, this has improved. And it's a direct correlation to us giving them Chromebooks in third grade.
Well, just what has changed over the last couple of years? Why all of a sudden do we? I mean, are we finding that they're behind? That's
Well, I think
Some of it
I
was
think
that we got the ESSER money.
Yes.
See, we got this ESSER money.
yeah, that's
Right, but
almost
that's gonna
terrible.
go away.
That's
That's
serious.
scary. That
That's
baits you.
serious.
That baits you into it, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
Come
but
over here. I'm going to give you this. It's
But
like
we
a crack
had to
dealer.
look at the kinds of things that we needed, or
Right.
that the teachers, the administration.
But Dr. Ray,
CNI
can I? Here's what you're saying. You're saying if we didn't have the ESSER money,
We
we
wouldn't do it.
wouldn't bring it to you, and our kids would keep having second grade education without it. And we're, by the way, we're generally okay with it. So I mean, which is it?
I'm just scared about taking this money for this because it
It
commits
goes
us to-
away.
Yeah.
The money goes away,
Yes.
but the commitment does not go away.
right.
Unless you want to take a
It
portion
grows.
of
It
that
grows.
It grows. It
the
grows and
unused
grows.
ESSER money and put it in fund. I don't know if you can.
You can't, you have to
Well-
use it for,
Right.
there's
So
a long list.
There is. If we take a step back and say.
Well, what else is on the
not
list that we really need?
We had not gotten beyond this part. When we created the line items, I can tell you this was included. And so, we'll have to go back to the drawing board and go back and look at what else might be out there and work with the curriculum instruction side. Because that's where the needs come from. The
Table
extra
it,
money
then
was
come back.
made
Yeah,
or was given for, retaining that knowledge and helping rebuild, any type of learning loss from being out for COVID. So, we can go back and we can talk as an administration and have that flow down to the campuses and see what else.
This was really the thing that had been requested over time the most. More technology in the lower grades.
But I think and I'm not speaking for the board, I'm going to say for myself, but I think if this was the first thing on the list, but there's nothing else on there that's
No, we had-
tangible at this point that you could
No,
bring
we had
to
other-
us
we had
as
other
options.
things, like the extra tutoring and that kind of thing, which we were already implementing.
Right, so we have other things on the list that are included in the ESSER plan already.
Right.
But maybe things that aren't going to have compounding financial ramifications that won't be supplemented by ESSER forever.
You're looking at more of one-time use,
Yeah.
is what you're asking. Is to go
Or
back.
are there things that we use now that would qualify for ESSER money that we could shift that money to something else?
We have done quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
So, my whole thing for the administration is it needed? And if it is, like you say, we've always found a way to find the money. So if second grade is in dire straits to have one-to-one computers, I agree with you. We'll find a way. But if it's just a way to spend ESSER money that's not going to be there, man, I'd sure hesitate. Personally.
Those courts
It's back
would
to where we
last-
started this conversation. We're
Yes.
opening the door.
Yeah.
And if it is, then we'll figure it out. But if it's not, then that money's going to, we have enough to buy them the first time from ESSER. Unless something else comes along in 7 years when these are ready to be replaced
I think
at 30% higher cost because 7 years have passed or more.
Probably more.
Yeah.
I
So
the board would like for you just to come back with other options.
Or maybe this option.
Or
just-
maybe
just
this option, and
Be
but
sure that that's
Right,
what we need.
We'll be able to present, if we come back with this option, we'll be able to present with you the data that you're requesting.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
no,
Well,
but
it's
I
hard
think-
too, because they're not here tonight, right? Because of weather,
Yeah.
they weren't able to be here
Right.
to
So
speak, to hear, for us to
I mean,
hear.
I don't know if there's
I'd like
anything
to-
Probably
tangible
need actual
planned
data,
either.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see the curriculum specifically, I guess, for second grade and just see where all of this is needed, or how does it enhance the learning, or do we need to enhance the learning that way?
Or
'Cause
could you
I agree
do-
with you, we're obviously doing well.
Could you do
as it
curriculum
is.
at all the grade levels that are through this and pay for that and not have to have one-on-one or carts for second grade and first grade? I'm
Okay.
scared to take the money because
Could there be a computer lab for second grade that they rotate through as a class period almost?
Just
I mean,
That's how it was when we were there.
I don't know. I'm
They didn't
just
have
saying.
computers when you were
I meant
there.
my kids.
It's like, there were no
When I was
computers
there,
when you
I
were
was an
there.
advocate, so-
we're not anti-computers.
Yeah, but-
If you-
Put your
if
slide
we are
rule
trying to
away.
protect
When you reach a point where you
I brought it up
don't
a lot.
have enough
Yeah.
to have one for classroom, you could go back to the old system of where you had three
computer lab.
teachers using 2 carts or something like that.
I will say, for transparency, if we do come back next month and decide this is the plan where to go, these models have a 120-day lead time. So we're already cutting it short if we want to start next school year with these. Just, not that that sways it one way or another, but I just want you to know that.
Right, 4 months.
Well, not sadly, I think we're saying it's not critical to our education to have these.
Yeah.
Or we haven't been convinced.
Or it is, and we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
Well, I
just more
think
concerned about
Dr.
the
Bitter,
commitment
though,
over time.
What he said earlier about if we didn't have the ESSER money,
Would we do this?
Would
Would
we
you have
be
brought it
bringing
to us?
this
Right,
to
this
you.
wouldn't be brought here
but we
today.
felt like, we meaning the administration, the C&I department, myself, Liz, collectively,
Right.
felt like that we had not been able to ever meet this request,
Yeah.
and now we had the ESSER money, and it was a good use,
Right.
not a permanent use, a 7-year use.
Because you don't want to give the new car and then take it away a year later.
Well, you all you'd have to, you could go to a shared system if you had to cut back, but, and not be taking it away entirely, but I know that wouldn't be well received. I do, the shared system.
So I think coming back to us, Liz, and
We'll work on it and,
Okay.
and bring back, either a revised plan or some more data on this plan.
okay.
That'd be, thank you.
Yeah,
All
that'd
right.
be great,
So
thank you.
we're not going to take action on that. Okay. We've already done 10I.
Yes, 10I we did already. We're going to
Chief
need
Collins, do you
to-
want any more photos taken, or are you good? Okay, he's good.
We
With
have
the
All
guy-
discussion
with the
on
guy-
that vote again?
We're going to need to be able to provide our own DAEP, District Alternative Education Program, for students beginning in the fall of 22. We've been contracting with Sanger for quite a few years, but they've discontinued this service. We'll need a teacher, we'll need an aide, and Dr. Ruggles has worked with this program in Lake Dallas, and he's agreed to be the administrator overseeing it. So I'm recommending adding a DAEP teacher and recognizing that there's budget impact in the aide and the monitoring salaries as well.
Where
What
would
was
this
the
be
cost
located?
Originally, what are we contracting with Sanger? How much?
We don't pay them a set amount, they charge us per student.
Per student.
Okay.
I think we looked that up, our bill in the fall was 22,000 or something, or was it not nearly that much?
I'll look it up before I tell you.
We
that
probably
I
weren't sending too many kids there.
We
right?
haven't sent
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
We've actually not sent money in 1920 because when we shut down in March, face to face, March and April and May are big months
Yeah, no
for
other
sending
districts
students.
surrounding.
And then in
West.
2021, when we were virtual and face to face both, we didn't send us money.
I mean, I like
Did
the
you-
idea of the permanent substitute if you don't
Yes.
have students.
Yes.
Where are you gonna put this?
Yeah, that's what I was.
In
gonna be
this,
adjunct?
in this building, while
Um,
we're shifting things around.
But then, so when this is filled, where are we
We'll
gonna put
still
this?
have them here. We've got that office area down there where Jeff and Liz and,
That won't be
Did-
used for.
Did you reach out to Northwest to see if they would?
yes,
Okay. Because you'd said Louisville, you'd reached out to Louisville and
I
they said
reached
no.
out to Northwest also, they didn't respond.
So the most recent information, Dr. Wright said that the last couple of years hasn't been as much. So the first semester was, about 11,400.
Oh, that's where we're getting the 22,
Right,
that,
so we were
yeah.
estimating about the same for the second. And again, it's per student, so you don't know until after the semester's over the exact cost.
But we'll pick up a way here this person can do
So-
subbing or,
He's we're prepaying some substitution costs.
right.
You know, with
And
this.
then the 18,000 is for what, monitoring?
The, administrator that's monitoring it, doing all the intake interviews and that kind of thing, overseeing their curriculum. Supervising the teacher and supervising the aide.
Is that outside of their hours, or it's part of their hours?
Part of their hours.
Is that an assistant principal? who
Mark
does that?
Ruggles.
It's Mark
Oh, Mark,
Robles.
okay.
That's too bad.
Any other questions?
I don't know, I just have a concern about that $18,000, I don't know why, but,
Yeah, is that commensurate with
I mean,
the additional pay for a director of special ed taking on DAEP administration?
It's quite a load. I mean, when you think you've got to make sure they're getting the appropriate assignments and your special education students, which is one of the benefits of having the special ed director.
Yes, I understand the additional work,
right.
but does that dilute from the special education program with Dr. Ruggles being over that? Like, there's only
That's an extra.
there's no added
Well,
hours.
one of the things that's going to make a difference too, that the positions that you approved that are split 30-70, special ed coordinator for LSSP and special ed coordinator for DIAGs, where they work as a hands-on DIAG plus a coordinator and a hands-on LSSP plus a coordinator. So he will, some of his efforts, it would be redirected here, but he wouldn't have intake interviews every week, hopefully. I mean, you can see we didn't have very many in the fall.
Is the 18, is it broken down by student, or is it just guaranteed 18,000?
Guess where we
I
get
just
where do we
had
get
it at
18,000?
$1,500 a month is the way I figured it. It could be broken down by student, but that's not the way it's currently done.
That's the only piece of this that I just have questions about.
I guess where.
Would you rather see it broken down by student?
Well, no. Where did the 1,500 come from? Is that a standard rate that you've
That's
seen?
based
or?
on an right, like an extra hourly rate.
And Chris, have you seen anything like?
You usually have a full-time principal that's in charge of DAEP.
Right, you would usually have either an AP who took it on as their duty, or you would have, like Chris said, a full-time person, full-time principal. Up at Sanger, they have a full-time principal.
So how
So-
many students a year?
Well,
Gone through
Liz
our
just
program.
looked at that. We paid out $11,000 in the fall. We didn't send very many in the fall.
Or what's not very many? I mean, how many are we talking?
11.
11.
Well, yes, I'd have to look at the invoice, I'm not
Okay.
sure how much it is per.
I think it was 11.
Dr.
or they
Wright has a
billed us
very
for-
good memory.
I mean, it was either 9 and they
crazy.
billed us extra on a couple of them because they stayed longer. It usually comes out to around 1,000 a student.
Am I off on this?
just
So,
have-
so is this, is in all fairness, is this not something an AP could take on?
If there's only 9 students?
Yeah.
An AP could take it on. You would have to have either probably a high school AP or a middle school AP.
That's crazy.
And I know logistically they wouldn't be on the same campus. It's just,
Not to either.
I hear what you're saying, like paying another principal to be over DAP, that's not financially responsible, but the 18,000 just seems like a large stipend
Yeah.
for no extra hours, which lends me to have concern with our growing special education needs in the district. And now you're putting this whole program on one person and you're still got the same amount of hours in a work week. So,
Well, so when you say same amount of hours, or is that
well,
assuming he's
she's
working a 9 to 5 or?
yeah, Dr. Wright's saying there's no additional time. Like you're still working 40 hours a
I
week.
mean, he might
but-
have to
That's my
work,
question, is that?
and he
is
might
someone
have
who's-
to work additional time to
it's-
pull this together, but basically, he's working.
But that's not the expectation. He may have extra time he's working, but the expectation is they can do it all his normal work week. That's
And
But
then
right
he's
now,
taking time
he-
away from special
Yeah,
ed.
but he's not a 40-hour work week, he's a professional who gets a salary. And so
Right.
Right.
that might be, some weeks it might be an 80-hour week, right?
Yes, that's correct. He might work.
It's
And I'm
you
just using
do
that
what
as
you
an
have to do to get
example.
He
your
might
salary.
work
So-
already.
So he's probably gonna have to work a little more to do this.
Yes,
That's-
definitely, absolutely. He would be working more. He's going to create all of the forms and everything for it. He's going to do, every time we have a placement, he's going to do the intake with the student. If we had
Can I
11,
ask, what is the reason they've taking our kids now from where we're sending them?
they just have too many, but they were taking them from several schools and,
I mean, what if we offered to pay them a premium? We have a lot cheaper than this.
well, if we pay him a premium, then you.
Take them to 18 and you don't have the
You don't have
salary
the
position.
90.
we
Yeah,
also
the
have a
18.
little more
Yeah.
expense than it appears because we're busing them to Sanger. So we have to transport them and
Which is a pain.
deliver them and then come back and then go back and get them and come back. So it's 2 round trips.
Is
That's
this
the thing,
something,
too.
Dr. Wright, that we would be, like, with,
We're gonna absorb
what
this at
Dr.
some
Runnels is
point.
doing, we would likely be headed towards anyway in the future, doing our own? Or is this strictly because Sanger just threw us a curveball here?
Oh, no, they just can't keep doing
But this is not,
contract.
would this be in your
This wasn't part of
strategic
your
plan
vision.
in 2 years,
Yes,
3 years?
we
would do
yes,
it
we
anyway,
needed to
bring it
work toward
in-house.
having our own DAP anyway, rather than transporting them somewhere else, yes.
So in the.
Having our own DAP is needed.
So this sounds like it's needed for the future, but this has been accelerated because of Sanger's situation.
It's like,
Right.
it's like the air conditioning handler.
Right, same
That's
kind of
right.
thing.
So can
Until
either the teacher or the aide do an intake?
They could do an intake, but you've got this, you set it up so that like every Thursday's intake day. You can only start DAEP on a Thursday. The teacher is with those students, if you've got students in DAEP. So I was trying to separate it out where their administrator, which is what we've become accustomed to, the administrator has intake every Thursday. And then the teacher is responsible for the students and their instruction, and they're getting their assignments understood and completed in a timely manner. And the aide is simply because I wouldn't want to leave the teacher alone with DAEP students without a second person there.
Is the 18,000, that's much more than we give a coach for a stipend, isn't it? And a coach is, a lot
It
of
is.
extra.
It's in
And so
line.
That to me is,
It's totally in line with what we've given the West principal and the South principal when they worked the extra hours and did the hiring for the new campus.
That's a much larger
For
job and
those 5
responsibility.
for the 5 months
So
that they worked double
I
duty.
guess one way to look at it is we're paying Sanger about $1,000 a student. And if we have, this would be the 18,000 would be for a year, so would that be?
no, we're also
20,
paying
22.
$65,000 for a
You've
full-time.
also
Right,
got-
that's
It's
where
gonna
I'm
cost
going.
us $100,000.
That's where I'm headed, this is just in addition to that. But roughly 22 students a year, is that about what we have?
Well, we
Or
used
was
to
it
have a
11?
lot more than that. If you go back to 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, before the pandemic, you're going to see more payment.
And as we grow, I assume there'll be more.
Yes,
Probably.
we do. We would expect that you
Right.
would have more. We would hope you wouldn't, but we
Right.
do expect more with more growth and more students. But it's just an estimate on our part. So we were just estimating if it was 11 and a half this first semester, that
That
Yeah,
was
that
the
was
fall
it.
of
'Cause
'21.
you don't know until you're at, how
But
many-
the number that went to DAEP in the 2021 year, when we had virtual and we had face-to-face, was reduced. We had less that year.
But I'm saying you'll probably have more in the future as you get more kids.
Correct.
I mean, just statistically speaking.
Right.
So that 20 grand may become 30, 40 grand, you know. in a couple
And
of
middle
years' time
school
anyway.
has sent very, very few this year. I don't think we've had a single student from middle school this year.
Not on the first semester, no.
So can we not have like an assistant principal make a stipend and be responsible, maybe if it's Thursdays, they do it after hours, you know, like after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they do intakes?
Or reducing the stipend here to $1,000 a month. I don't know.
Putting it on Dr. Ruggles just doesn't make sense to me with all that he's got going on.
Well,
We're growing and.
He would be doing the intake, creating the forms. He has the forms from Lake Dallas. He would be making visits by DAEP. He would be doing the intake, but he might not have intake every Thursday.
You won't have it every Thursday.
I would
Right.
hope that we wouldn't have
You wouldn't
intake.
have one every Thursday.
You know, what if,
Statistically, you wouldn't.
I kind of like what, you didn't really say definitively, but you kind of alluded to cost per student.
yeah,
What about a cost per student, that he gets X amount of money in a stipend for each student that we have in there, serving that student?
well, what if we
Rather-
actually had Dr. Hagan be the one doing this? Cause
Oh.
these are
Yeah.
students who might be,
Is he
Well, the
related to?
situation there though becomes, Dr. Hagan does go and visit them in DAEP, he does.
Also,
But
it's like,
he doesn't need to be put in a disciplinary intake role.
okay, so that's a
Because,
disciplinary thing. the
yes,
intake, okay.
this is the input for discipline.
I guess if you're saying that Dr. Ruggles would visit, then, and if Hagan's already visiting,
Hagan's going and pulling the students out
right,
and conferring with the students. Dr. Ruggles would be more going to the site and seeing how the students are progressing and how the teacher's interacting with them and how the aide is interacting with the students, that type of thing. More like what you would see as an evaluator, a
yeah, I understand.
principal or an assistant principal going into a classroom. This would be a classroom.
I guess nowadays, or he does them when they're here.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the teacher part and the aide part, but I'd almost put the 18,000 on hold and maybe talk about it some more, I don't know.
Well, actually, based on the verbiage of your motion, you're not even putting that extra part in. If we can move to approve the teacher for DAEP, and you can still kind of brainstorm around
And the aid.
the aid and the monitoring, right? 'Cause
Well, the aide is not a contract position, but I'm just saying on there that there will be additional budget impact by having the aide.
Right, but to what Mr. Duffmaw is saying is the motion is just for the teacher.
Correct,
These added details of
correct.
the aid and a stipend aren't really part of this motion.
That's correct.
Does that mean they don't require board approval?
Well,
If it's
the
if it'd be a
aid
stipend,
isn't
yeah.
the stipend, yeah, and the aid, we'd have to approve that hiring. So
Did he agree to do it because he knew about this? I mean, he may not agree to it if I don't know what terms you gave him anyway. Maybe agreed to it because we told him there was an additional stipend.
What exactly then would be involved in doing an intake? If we have all the forms,
signing up,
Once
so.
you have the forms developed, you meet with the parent, you meet with the student, you go over the terms of the placement, you go over all the rules, they have certain rules for what they can bring with them. They have certain rules about lunch. Their lunch has to be brought with them. All of those rules.
So we
It's
don't,
probably not more than maybe an hour with each student, if that.
I just don't see that as being a director level.
And that makes it even more appropriate to have an AP doing it.
But you're also bringing, he's also coming in and overseeing the program by observing what's going on in that classroom with the student, with the aide, with the
Why can't
teacher.
that just be part of his regular duties?
I think it's the AP duty, right? And the AP's responsibility is school discipline, a portion of the responsibility, and this is a component of that.
So that's where
You
I
know,
think it
and
needs to be, not with a director.
Well, we've got those APs doing all those classroom observations and walkthroughs and discipline, but not necessarily, I don't think we can put that on a high school AP.
Who would be
Even with
doing
a
the
stipend?
Plus, he's already had the background in putting this together in one setting. He's already got he's got this down.
But I think Dr.
You might
Wright,
pay
like,
them a one-time fee to set it up, and then
and
That's what I was
that's
gonna say.
that's my
It's
thoughts.
a big
You
deal.
talked about all the work going into setting everything up. Then once it's set up,
It's
Runs
just
itself.
boom, boom, boom.
just like the principals that were at two campuses while one was being opened, that stipend went away once they were removed from
Well, I think
the dual
I think a
duty.
set fee for setting it up could be appropriate, and then coupled with Mr. Duffenbaugh's suggestion or
Yeah, no, I think.
reference to as
Per
I don't
a per student intake.
I don't know. Well, I'm conflicted about a fee per student going into a disciplinary program like that.
Yeah.
That
lends
concerns
itself
me.
to possible problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't.
I don't think that.
I don't think. I think another solution or other alternatives can be brought up. I personally don't. I'm not. I don't. Doesn't feel good to me to get paid per student that goes into.
Well, I think we're looking though, we're not,
Paid per person.
perhaps we're not looking at paying per student, but let's say that you were looking at about $50 an hour, just theoretically. Then if you had one intake on Thursday, you've got that amount of extra work for that day, or if you had two intakes on Thursday. And I think you could have them at 4 p.m. in the afternoon or 5 p.m. in the afternoon as opposed to during the regular workday. That's an option also.
I think maybe a setup fee like we were talking about, and then a stipend that's maybe a little more commensurate with, somebody mentioned earlier, the coaches get a
Or
stipend.
an AP, I think an AP is very appropriate for
Maybe
this.
just a smaller stipend, might be the way to think, something to look at. Sounds like we don't have to make that decision tonight, but.
No,
uh,
no.
But might
Yeah.
think about
Yeah,
that.
some other options we'd like those looked into.
Or what about the option of a setup fee or whatever that is, and then when you assign it to a particular employee, if that employee's job description expands, maybe his salary expands commensurate with that, and then it's a set specific to his duties and his pay. So the idea
like
of a
a permanent
stipend.
stipend kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, just like anything, if you're gonna go to somebody and say, I need you to do more, and you're in this role, this role is expected, but it's expanded, so maybe that makes sense. And it's not a stipend at all, it's you're just reevaluating a guy's pay, a person's pay, based on the responsibilities you're handing them. You know?
Right, it's
The problem
just
with
an
that is if he
increase
doesn't
of
do that
say
after 2
X
years, you're not gonna
percent of
reduce his
pay.
Yeah, you
I mean,
don't,
that's why they do the stipend, so that you don't.
yeah, you'd
don't
almost
get
have to, you'd have to
tied to one
quantify
person.
Yeah,
it,
you don't
because if
tie-
they ultimately
it's
decide
tied
they
to the
don't
job,
wanna
not
do
the
it, you
person.
gotta make that change. You have to have a number.
But no, what you were saying was perfectly appropriate to say that the duties of this position are increasing.
So if he leaves, it always stays with his job.
It stays with the
of
job,
the
not the
assistant
person.
principal.
Right.
Yeah,
Stays with the job.
right. So whoever goes into that role,
Right.
assume that.
This
It's
is the
it's like
expected
a
job
UIL
duties.
coordinator stipend, it's like if that person is not gonna be that, or they retire, or they leave, the stipend goes with whoever takes over that coordinator position.
Well, think y'all are talking two different things.
Right.
Yeah.
Over here,
He's talking salary.
they're
you're
talking
stipend.
salary and saying the director of special education is also going to do DAAP, and that salary
And
is
that pays
incorpor-
this.
and that this position pays this.
Right.
And so if Dr. Ruggles left, the person who was hired into that would have those responsibilities at that salary versus a stipend that goes away with the individual. Like it's expected that director of special education is going to cover DAAP as well when hiring in this district.
Those are all just thoughts. I mean, I think we all agree that hire a teacher, if we have to have it ourselves.
Just think it out.
I mean, perfectly,
Yeah.
I would say use one of our, have it as a side responsibility to one of our APs. Cause it, with pay commensurate if you need to,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I think it's worth talking about some more, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with
with the
approving
motion,
a
I'm
teacher.
okay with.
Yeah, the motion is fine, and we're all in agreement. Let's put some more work into the monitoring fee. What's going on there?
I'll make a motion.
Oh,
What
okay.
action item
Well,
is
let me entertain it first.
Yeah, entertain it a second.
Okay.
Let's get on.
I'll entertain motion to approve action item 10J.
I'll make that motion.
Dr. Bitter, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lowry, second. Any further discussion?
Are we making the motion that's written there, or are we
Yeah.
making the motion specifically just for the teacher,
Well, the motion that's
motion
written is
itself.
just the
Yeah,
teacher.
That's how it's written.
without the extra language?
Right.
There's no extra language. It's the details in the staffing sheet that's not part of the motion.
Okay,
Right.
Gotcha.
So this is just to approve a DAEP teacher for 22-23 at a cost of $65,000. Any further discussion?
Well, I just want everybody to make sure they understand that there really is an aid attached to this too.
Right.
Actually, I have a question. My own motion. What happens to this full-time? Is it a full-time position for that, right?
Yes, but
In weeks where there's no kids,
They
they
they're
go in
sub.
sub.
they do sub.
Right. Yeah.
Right, so you can figure
They're
that.
flexed to be a sub.
You did say that, so okay, perfect.
It was just a while ago.
It really was.
And then,
The first
what
hour of the
about,
discussion.
the same question about the aid then?
Yeah. If
There are no
if no one's at
students.
home, you
Same
send the
thing.
aid.
They would sub for an aid somewhere else?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That actually. That's good.
But the aid will come elsewhere. This is just for the teacher,
Got it.
right? I know what
Yes,
you're
but
saying.
But the aid is not going to ever come back to you as an action item because it's not a contract position.
She's saying it's coming.
Right. I understand. We're just being clear. This is a teacher,
Right,
and we know that there's a non-contract position that you're going to hire that comes along with this.
right. I just want you to know that.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
whole monitoring thing we talk about.
That's up
another
for
day.
discussion.
Right.
Right. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
You want to talk about this, Chris? You want me to?
Go ahead. This is a
Okay, this is a resolution asking you to agree to pay everyone during the time that we were closed down for the weather. Because like our people that are teachers, they're getting this back within the 75,600 minutes, but the people that are student nutrition, the people that are aides, anyone who's clocking in, clocking out, working as an hourly employee, we have to have this resolution in order to be able to pay them.
So
So they did more of that, but they do want to pay. That's what she said.
So this is for the hour, the people that are paid by the hour,
Yes, because they didn't work those days.
but we're gonna pay them for those days.
Right, they're not making up those days.
Oh.
The February 24th date when we were closed because of the ice.
But
They
what
had-
happens?
they had-
I thought we had to make that up on the day after Easter. No.
We have to
don't have
make
to
up
make it up.
There was one day that we
one
could-
day we
Or
have
one
to
day
make
we
up.
do and one we
But
don't.
we already had 3 other days that we had minutes banked for. But see, they're not banking minutes the way teachers are banking minutes. They're working 7.5 hours a day.
And the way I would state it is that, yes, these people did not work that day,
They had no
but,
choice.
but they had no choice, and they.
It's
their
like
bu-
it was the COVID argument.
But their budget, they needed to, they need that to work. So-
Like, for example, a student nutrition employee.
They're available to work, have we called
Yeah.
them?
Right. Yeah, a student nutrition employee didn't come to work that day, but we weren't serving any food that day. And it was the weather was impossible to navigate the roads in most cases. Unless someone lived very close or had
We've already
formal
discussed, we have a trouble getting bus drivers, getting student nutrition.
It's a morale issue.
aides.
This is something that you should not.
Don't should on us.
Should on us.
Don't-
You better clarify.
Better be.
Don't should on us.
It's going out over the.
Now he knows why we need protection.
Okay. Anyone have any further discussion? Liz, what's the financial impact on this? Like, do you have it roughly dollar-wise?
No, I don't have it figured roughly. It's included in our.
But
budget.
essentially, it's not an impact, is your
It's
point.
not.
It's not an impact. I'm just saying what.
Right,
I'm
you're
just,
asking if we've gone and figured the amount per day. I have not done that.
okay.
He's asking what the savings were.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Any further discussion? Witty comments? Anything? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item 10K as presented.
So moved.
Dr. McDay, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Mr. Deffenbaugh, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The time is 9:41 p.m. We are adjourned.